Hello everyone, this is Charlotte and this is a podcast called Chatting in Cars. It's where I talk about random topics while driving to work. I do swear, I do talk about sensitive topics, and I don't stick on one topic at a time. So obviously, if you don't want to hear that, you don't have to. It's currently Monday, it is pissing down once again, and I get to drive through the rain. And you get to hear my badly recorded audio and my swearing at people. Lucky you. Yeah, okay, so if you don't want to hear all that kind of bullshit, you don't have to. I'm not going to make you. I can't, make you physically sit down and listen to my crap. So you can change the channel. The topic for today is codependency. Just waiting for my boom gate to open. Whilst turning on the heater, I got a slight hangover from sugar. So excuse my migraine attacks. No, I don't have a migraine. I don't get migraines. I do get silent migraines, but that's different. It is overcast. You can feel the pressure. You ever get those headaches where it's like overcast and the pressure's there and it's just like right in your frontal lobe and you're like, nah. Anyway, codependency. If you've listened to the other podcast, and you probably haven't because I think I've had maybe 2 views, which I'm absolutely fine with because this is more venting than any kind of popularity contest. You would know that my background is, poverty-based, abusive, basically. You would also know that my parents didn't exactly do the best job in parenting. Most of their shit came from physical abuse or emotional, psychological abuse, in which, I developed a sense of abandonment issues, and essentially it was just neglect. So emotional neglect. As fun as it sounds, and it happens quite frequently. Sorry, my stutter's already kicking in. Fuck. In perks of selective mutism. Take a breath, darling. Yes. Funny enough, I got a little kid called Leo, who's year 3, he's got the same stutter. I'm like, you poor bastard. He has to properly slow down and stop and try and, he's gorgeous though, he's a bouncy little fucker. Definitely got ADHD. But my parents didn't exactly set me up for any kind of independence in that it was emotional independence. My mum was very big on, drilling into us that we had to be financially independent. We had to be autonomous as adults at an early age, mainly because we were in service to her. She was sort of like a queen ant or a queen bee. She used to sit in her big, what they call lazy boys. She was, perpetually looked like 9 months pregnant, so you can imagine. She still has some kind of distended, she had 4 kids. So she did look like the quintessential sort of queen bee kind of thing, pushing out babies and ordering the troops around, so we were her worker ants, or bees. But she'd bark orders from the lazy boy, essentially, that was in the front room, and we'd, buzz around her or scurry around her trying to fulfill her wishes. That was pretty much it. I hear it's quite common. I don't know if it's any kind of reflection on what a mainly male household would look like. But my sisters and I, pretty much, that was our life sort of thing. My brother was similar, but not the same, because he was treated differently because he was a guy, which I find weird. There was a hell of a lot more demands placed on us as girls to get it right my brother was ADHD, so it was pretty much a lost cause by my mum's standards. I feel sorry for him because he's a gorgeous guy. He came out really well, actually. I'm pretty proud of him. But my sisters and I've got 2 sisters, we came out, extremely fiercely independent and competent. Dare I say it, only because we were under threat of getting the shit kicked out of us if we didn't get it right. My mum held us to a standard where we had to do the best. It wasn't competitive amongst us, as far as I could tell. My younger sister has a thing about my older sister, because apparently she was the favorite, my older sister. I'm looking at both of them going, look, dude, I'm the spare middle child. You're both bitches. So clearly you're not looking at this objectively. I was ignored for the most of this unless I was asked to do something. My older sister was my mum's favourite, definitely for sure. because she was the oldest girl. I mean, she was meant to be the cutter. She cut the way for the rest of us. She was meant to be. My brother was meant to be the main cutter, but he was also, you know, a bit scattered. Because you got the attention span of a goldfish even now, you know. He's 43 actually now, so you do grow out of it a bit. I think he's mellowed out a lot, but he's still got, like, it's hard to get him to sit down for long extended periods of times doing things that he isn't intensely interested. Like, he can sit there for hours painting his Warhammer figures, but when it comes to sitting down and marking something, because he's a teacher as well, he has trouble. Whereas I'm the opposite. I can sit there for hours doing anything. I don't mind. I've got that AD, you know, ASD hyper-focused shit. If I want to do it, I will do it, and I will do it for hours, and I have trouble letting go of not doing it. So it's weird. So I was doing one of the units for uni one time, and I was just like, I forgot that I'd been sitting there for about 8 hours doing this unit because I was so invested in it. I had my coffee, and I was just in the zone. That's a terrible way to lose weight, by the way, because you forget to eat. I wouldn't recommend. I wouldn't recommend autism as a dietary aid. But yeah, no. But we'd hop around my mum, and we were conditioned to serve, basically. A good girl. My mum wanted us to be ladies and good girls, even though she was, you know, beating the shit out of us at the time. So I don't know what she was expecting. She was definitely expecting compliance from all of us. My brother was the hardest one to make submit because, you know, he was the typical Bart Simpson. But he wasn't that bad. I didn't think. He just wanted to do things his own ways. I mean, you could always get him to do what you wanted them to do if you were just nice to him. I don't know why she never picked up on that, because I'd ask him to do something, and you know, you use your manners, and he'd be fine with it. He wants to help you. It's the brute force that was the thing that blocked any kind of compliance. I mean, people generally want to be helpful, I guess, and they just want to do all of their terms. So brute force is not going to do anything for that. It was really weird that she kept trying to, you know, smack him into compliance. It's like, what are you, Putin? It doesn't make sense. But in a sense, like, we were independent financially. We were drilled into it. We have to be financially independent. We have to be autonomous as adults from a young age, obviously. You need to be able to hold the fort and run the household. And on top of that, you have to get a good job. And you don't get one of these, you know, little Kmart jobs or something like that. You have to get a proper uni-level degree job. And you will, and you don't have a choice. And that was the thing. I mean, it was a pretty hard stand to take. I mean, there was no room for error. My sister went into a photography degree just because my mom forced her into it. My parents said, you are going to uni, you don't have a choice. And so she chose one of these degrees to just fumble around it. She didn't give a shit about it. It wasn't good. She knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. She worked for Pixie Photo for a bit, and then that's it. She has an interest in photography, but it's not a job for her. It was weird. So she did what my parents told her to do, but not to the level to which it was expected, I guess. I went into a teaching degree because my mum told me, go into a teaching degree. And I said, okay. I wanted to do fashion, but, you know, parents, huh? It wasn't really a solid job. I admit that. And I was thinking about starting my own label. And I have started a few labels, but never really went anywhere because I just didn't have the mindset at the time. I like crafting. Anyway, always been crafting from a young age, making stuff, always. I like fiddling with things, like projects. But, you know, so when we left our homes, I walked straight from what was a very codependent, like my parents encouraged that trauma bonding codependent streak where you do deeds for them and they might acknowledge you, or you do deeds for them and they'll say, you were supposed to be doing this anyway. Why do you need congratulation over this? This is basic shit. You should be doing it anyway. So when it comes to praise, I can't do it. Compliments and praise throw me. I don't know what to do with it. You know, you kind of semi-sneer at it, really. You're like, well, I was going to do it anyway. You know, someone says, oh, you did a really good job. Oh, you look lovely today. I'm going, yeah, fuck off. It's like, you're funny, aren't you? Yeah, fuck off, boy. You got to learn to take compliments and things as an adult. I think if you had that kind of upbringing, you look at people with side eye, like extreme side eye. If they tell you look pretty that day, I'm going, what do you want? What's the job? What do you need? And there was a big conditioning to, if someone, I don't know, did something for you, it was a very transactional upbringing. You had to do something back. There was no, I want to do this just because I like you, and I want you to feel nice and have nice things, which is what I ended up wanting in the end, because I had such a transactional relationship with my parents. We were conditioned to believe, like, if someone does something nice, you have to do something back. If someone gives you food, you give them food back. There has to be an even keel. And I do still have that sort of even keel thing. But these days it's more like I want to do things nicely for people because, I like them. You just want to be nice, don't you? You might feel good about yourself, but we would hope that what you're giving the person outweighs, the self-gratification that comes from that. You do it because it's the right thing to do, or you just want to be nice, man. It's like, what do people have against just being nice these days? It's like, you got to get something out of something. I mean, one of my least favorite sayings, I think, is, if you're going to do something, you've got to get paid for it, or never do something for free, or something like that. It's one of those sayings where it's always that sort of me first mentality. But the transactional arrangement my parents had with our upbringing, it meant that we became very codependent on whoever we were with. We would exchange deeds for affection or validation. So when I walked into my marriage with my ex-husband, I was heavily codependent. I needed his approval to, just exist. So I completely enmeshed my life around him and became whatever he wanted me to be. Which is horrible because you lose your sense of identity. Not that I really had a sense of identity at the time. I met him at 17. My parents up until then had told me who I was. And I was an extension of their narcissism, basically. I could not fail because they wouldn't let me fail. I couldn't be myself. At 16, my parents said, my mom had gone through and ripped out any kind of sense of identity I had because she found out I had a boyfriend. I mean, she went through in my bedroom and pulled out everything that made me a girl, female clothes, anything like magazines I'd scurried away from somewhere, anything that made me sort of develop my own, even leading towards my own sexuality sort of thing. It's like, I have no concept of how feminine I was at the time until it had been removed, and I'd already been raised a boy. So I was my brother's mini-me, essentially. And when I started trying to develop my inner feminine, my mum ripped it out. So I didn't really have that sense of identity, my feminine, until I was, mid-30s. Yeah, I'd say mid-30s. Not even mid-30s now. About 30, yeah. Because my ex-husband wanted me to be this sort of gym-going, cropped hair, no makeup. And I don't mind going to the gym, but these days I go in pink tights and pigtails. Fuck that. I still like the gym. I love the gym. But he wanted me to be something I just wasn't. To be honest, I think he wanted me to be a male. I think he was gay. I don't know. There's something there that's just not like, not quite kosher. He always had a male buddy hanging around. I'm going, what is going on here? Am I the third party to something I don't know about? But there was no concept of identity. And I was codependent on him because I needed his approval. My parents had set me up to believe everything I needed to do. If someone was nice to me, you have to be nice back. And that fucks you up boundary-wise as well, because if someone's being horrible to you, you feel compliant to still be nice to them as well. It's weird trauma bonding, because my ex-boyfriend tried to do the same thing. He was just horrible, and then he breadcrumbed bits of affection. And you're like, but you just spent a whole hour or so either stonewalling, actually it was more than an hour when it was stonewalling, or bitching about something and starting arguments and being nasty and horrible comments and things like that, and then you come back with, I bought you egg spot. I'm going, what the fuck? It's like, you're horrible. How does this make up for it? And you start questioning the things that are going on because you don't understand why you'd be horrible to try and, and then afterwards, I apologize, it's okay, I did this for you. It's like, I don't give a fuck what you did for me. At this point, you've proven that you're an asshole and that you're capable of being an asshole further and expecting it to be covered up with fucking food. No, food does not make up for you being an asshole. Nothing makes up for you being an asshole besides you not being an asshole in the future, It's a weird arrangement. I'm slowly unraveling the way people sort of interact with each other. It's like, clearly he has got some damage from his childhood where apparently if someone fucks up, you can just cover it up with food. It's like, no, faggot. That's not how it works. My parents didn't do apologies. They just didn't. I don't do apologies now because I don't believe that you should have fucked up in the first place, but that could come from my mum's inability to give us space to fail. So that could be a trauma response. I just don't think, like, if you cheat on someone, for example, and I know I pull on this thread a lot, it's premeditated. It's absolutely premeditated. You got to find someone who you're interested in. You got to drop all your guards. You got to override. You got to find time to physically get to that person and fuck them, and then cover it up afterwards because you don't want your spouse or whatever finding out. It's like all that shit is premeditated. You're already planning in play. If you said it was an accident, bullshit. It's like there's no fucking way that's an accident. I accidentally fucked someone. It's like, oh, I accidentally, got a fucking job as well. It's like, no, it's not an accident. That is unforgivable. I don't know why, a mistake. I made a mistake. No, the mistake was that you got caught, fuckhead. It's like, that's the only thing that you would feel bad about is getting caught and losing something. Because, anyone in the right mind's going to fucking leave that shit. And anyone who forgives people who cheat on them, and these people, it's premeditated. As far as I see, it's a sin, to be honest. It's a cardinal sin. It's throwing your person under the bus for self-gratification and ego stroking. There's nothing human error about it. You did it with intent. You said, I don't give a fuck about what the ripple effect could be on this person I'm supposed to love. I'm going to do it anyway because it makes me happy. And if it gets to that point where that idea pops in your head, then clearly you're not happy with that person and you need to fucking leave before anything goes wrong, like you cheating. There's also those people that cheat because they're sadistic fucks and they enjoy seeing people suffer. People who stay in relationships and just lie about it, knowing that they got one over on that other person. I have a strong feeling my ex-boyfriend would have been that way. I caught him with evidence around the house. I'm sitting there going, what is this? And the biggest one I can remember is finding a hair clip down the back of the couch. And I'm sitting there going, I know exactly when this happened. Because the weekend before, we had an argument about how I wasn't, liberal enough. I wasn't liberal enough. We'd also had an argument about how I didn't want to sleep around and things like that. And I'm sitting there going, this is connected, and you're going to fucking say if I don't do what you want me to do, or if I don't, it was always a conditioning response. I want you to act a certain way, I'm going to be subtle about it. I'm going to argue that you're not good enough because you're not willing to do this. And it was bullshit. And in the end, I got fed up. And I said no, and I put my foot down, and I said, I'm not interested in this. I'm not that kind of person. I'm happy not being liberal enough if this is your definition of being liberal, which is absolute bullshit, because I have seen many versions of that phrase played out. And it would have been Australia Day on a Tuesday afternoon or night, and he would have brought someone home because it was an Australia flag hair clip. Brought someone home, fucked him on the couch. The hair clip got stuck behind the back of the couch. They forgot about it because they were probably shit-faced, and it just sat there until I moved in and found it. And it's a case of, I know how this got here. All I need to know is who was dumb enough to try this shit. It's like, who? And I look at him and I go, I know you were fucking dumb enough. So it's like any sense of codependence developed with him, non-existent. It's like, I cannot handle that level of stupidity. And, finding stick-on sequins around the fucking house didn't exactly, not sequins, what are they, diamantes? Left in strategic places, knowing where I'd see them. It's like, you're a little petty fucker, aren't you? It's like, you want to have one over on me, you want to start an argument. I don't understand where this comes from unless that arguments equate to love and affection for you. If you're willing to argue with this person, then apparently it means something, but you're doing horrible fucking things to people in order to get to this argument thing. This fucker was non-stop arguments. It was about everything. 2.5 years, I never stopped arguing with the fucker. I argued with him more than I did with my ex-husband for 16 years. I never had a fucking argument with that guy. It was until the end where I started going, wait a minute, this isn't working, that anything happened that was remotely like raising our voices. So I'm learning about people's love languages, and my ex-boyfriend's love language is to treat people like shit, develop an argument, whereas if they come back and stay, then clearly they love you. It's like, no, you fuckwit, that's called trauma bonding and anxious attachment. They don't love you, they're codependent. He's thick as shit. I can't handle that level of dumb. You know, and I thought about it. I'm sitting there going, I can't spend the next 40 years of my life, and I do have at least 40 in me because I'm doing all right, arguing with this fuckwit. It's I can't. I've watched my mum do it. My mum does it with my dad. He fakes incompetence. It's weaponized incompetence, where you do the bare minimum and only do what the person asks you explicitly to do without using your initiative for anything else. And then claim, I did what you asked me to do. It's like, no, fucker, there's a whole bunch of other things around it that you should have been doing anyway, but you chose not to do because you chose not to fucking see it. And in spite of being incredibly obvious, you know, like one prime example is cleaning up the house. Ask them to do the washing. You shouldn't have to ask anyone to be an adult that way. Self-care is a basic adult practice. If you can see a massive pile of washing or a house that is a tip, you fucking clean it the first chance you get, because you know you're going to get sick, it's going to mount up, there's going to be stress involved, it's stress on your brain because you're looking at all this chaos and clutter and thinking, fuck, my brain's going crazy right now. There's a whole web of things around that, you know, instigate your actions. You should be moving towards cleaning up this house. But you'll get one asshole say, well, I did the washing because you asked me to. It's like, I shouldn't have had to ask you to. It should occur to you naturally that this shouldn't be here. You know? But they'll ignore 50 other things around the house that just make sense. And I'm not saying you need to wipe my ass, because I'm mucking in as well. I'm not designed to allow shit like that to happen. Because my mum, again, drilled it into me. You will clean your house. We were domesticated from 5. Things that quite a few adults I'm seeing these days just haven't got the hang of. We were doing it like 10. So we had accomplished that at like 10, dude. So when I find a guy that's incompetent now and he can't do his own washing, can't cook, can't clean, I look at them and go, what the fuck? What is wrong with you? You've been degraded down to a 10-year-old. I don't understand why or how you have lived this long. I don't. It's absurd. Obviously, there must have been something there. Clearly, they didn't have a mum like mine that drilled it into them. It's odd. It's odd. That's why I like army guys or military guys, because you know they've had that shit drilled into them. So I can appreciate a guy that knows that shit needs to be clean and done. I mean, bearing in mind that they pretty much haze them into doing it, which is what my parents did. But you can appreciate they know how to do stuff. You know. Anyway, competence is an attractive trait with me. So if you got one of those, good. My older sister's got this great guy. I say great. He's a bit closed-minded when it comes to religion and belief systems, but he is competent. He works with his hands. If she says she needs something made, he just goes out and fucking makes it. It's astounding. He likes doing it as well. I'm sitting there going, where are these guys? Because my dad's fucking useless. My ex-husband was the same. He doesn't make anything. He sits on his fucking PlayStation, God knows how fucking long, ignoring that you exist. And then he wants something, or he expects to wipe your ass, and that's about it. Or wipe his ass, rather. I still remember picking up piles of toenails. It was, what the fuck, dude? He'd pile them on tables with tissues next to them, used tissues. Plates and cups, empty containers, like ice cream containers and stuff like that. He just piled them around the house. In his little man cave, in the front room. He never made the bed, he never cleaned, never did the dishes or anything. And he said at one stage, when I called him on it at one stage, I said, why aren't you cleaning up, sort of thing? He said, it's not a priority. I'm going, are you fucking insane? I have literally got your toenails in a pile on the fucking table next to me while I'm trying to watch TV and eat my food. And you don't think that's a priority? Pick that shit up and put it in the fucking bin. He used to just peel them off and leave them in a pile. And he knew, that's weaponized incompetence. He knew that I would pick it up because I'm not that way inclined to leave shit like that lying around. It's disgusting. He was a fucking pig. He was just generally a fucking pig. And the boyfriend that came after him was the same fucking way. Maybe not leaving piles of toenails, but just as fucking disgusting. And you sit there and think, how am I attracting these guys? It's not that I'm attracting them, it's that I'm allowing them with the codependency shit. By the time I got to the ex-boyfriend, I'm like, I'm not allowing this. And then of course it starts all arguments. It's, you know, like, that's disgusting. I'm not allowing you to sit with me, or I'm not, you know, tolerating you being misogynistic towards waitresses and heckling them and sexually harassing them while they're trying to pick up glasses in the fucking bar. We were at one of the pubs in town. It wasn't his local, but it was, one of a common one that everyone goes to sort of thing. And we used to go there for Irish nights. And he'd sit there, and sometimes he sat with his mates, and he'd sit there and, he's sexually harassing the bar staff from a distance. And his mates are pieces of shit too. And I'm sitting there going, I don't want to associate with this. This is embarrassing. As a woman, as a human being, as anyone who has to sit with you because you make a shitload of noise just embarrassing yourself. So that was a huge turn-off. I think it contributed to not developing codependency with that idiot. Quite frankly, I'm going, you were just showing yourself up. You're embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing me in the process. It shows that you have no concern for how I might feel about this situation as a woman, as a human being, as someone who has to sit with you. And I'm not saying his life has to center around mine, but you think about behaviors when you're with someone, don't you? You consider, I don't want to embarrass this person while I'm with them. That's why I would never call him out on his bullshit in front of his friends, because I'm sitting there going, your friends are going to give you shit for this. I know they are. I don't want to embarrass you because I'm not that kind of person. Although later I do keep posting shit about Facebook on him, so not with his name in there, but it's definitely aimed at that prick. But that's just venting. That's my pettiness. It's like, I need to understand it, why you did it. I know, I need to understand why guys do it in general, but but you take into consideration, I don't want to show, if I love someone, I don't want to embarrass them in front of their friends. I won't have a dig at them in front of their friends. I won't, I want them to present as something that is something to be proud of, You look after this person you love, you look after them, you want the best for them. And that's what love is. You want the best for them. You don't want to drag them down in front of their friends and stuff like that. If you need to talk to them, you pull them to the side when no one's looking, around a corner, and you say, what the fuck is going on? I waited until we got home for anything like that, when he was sitting there, calling out the barmaids for tight pants and shit like that, because it's fucking embarrassing. I waited until we got home. And I said, look, why are you doing this? Sort of thing. And he got defensive and he stonewalled, and I'm sitting there going, you know what? Fuck this. You're a toddler. I don't want this. I do not want this. By then the codependency was well and truly gone. But in my marriage I needed it to validify my identity. My ex-husband had customized me to what he wanted me to be. As I said before, he wanted short hair, no makeup, wanted athletic gear all the time. Not leggings. Can't wear leggings because that's too feminine. You have to wear, what are they, parachute pants or whatever the fuck they are. He wanted me to wear dull colors. As soon as I left him, I started dressing bright. I'm like, fuck you, guy. I don't give a shit. And I'm wearing lipstick. I wore lipstick for a clear month after I left him, to yoga, to work, it was bright red. I'm like, fuck you, victory lap. Here we go. I was so angry with him. All these small things. I'm going, you said I can't, so I will, and I will in spades. Do it again. Pick something else. I want to try something new. It was sad that way, and it was all control manipulation. And it was, and breadcrumbing affection as well. Not as bad as my ex-boyfriend, but still breadcrumbing nonetheless. At one stage, he started saying, we'll catch up together and I'll pencil you in. That was one of my key phrases that I fucking hated by that stage. I'll pencil you in. Not that I hadn't been with him for 16 years, I'll pencil you in. You're an option. You don't matter. You're not significant in my life because I've got other people I want to and can hang around if I feel like it, because fuck you. It's like, I'm your wife, you can't. I should be your right arm. I should be at your side, at your shoulder, equal to you. Don't put me in that position where I'm an if I feel like it. I'm a fucking wife. They don't get that. That's got to be narc. That's overt narcissism. That's pegging everyone else as beneath you and an option. And it doesn't matter if you hurt their feelings or if you isolate them. Because he did isolate me from my parents and my friends because he didn't like them. So he said, I don't want you to hang around them. He's a piece of shit. So he isolated me, customized me, trauma bonded me, developed codependency, and then gave me the ultimatum, we need an open marriage or I'm leaving. And, I completely lost myself. What shred I had left of myself stood up and said, fuck you, I'm leaving first. Well then, I didn't really leave first because he left first when he started suggesting shit like that. And he treated me like an idiot because I was in my inner child's around him. I felt comfortable to be around my inner child. You know, you're bouncy, you're happy, you're just carefree, and you want things to work nicely. That's your inner child. It's having fun. I let him see that. And that's the only thing he saw, to be honest, because he didn't want to see anything else. That's all he saw was. He didn't see my inner feminine. He didn't see my inner masculine. He definitely didn't see my inner masculine. My inner masculine's a fucking badass. He'll cut your fucking throat. But my inner feminine's lovely as well. She's all mum and fluffy and flowers and baking things, and she's quintessential feminine. Anyway, if you ever look inside yourself, try and identify what you are on the inside. I'm not saying in the schizophrenic terms that you have inner personalities, but we've all got inner child, feminine and masculine. I looked at my ex-boyfriend's inner insides. I was worried. When I looked at him, I saw the inner child was crying, sitting on the floor. The inner masculine was pacing in a sort of frenzied, dark state. And the inner feminine was just like a straw. It wasn't a person at all. It was just like a straw dummy. You know, like you get those old scarecrows, but it was just laying down and it wasn't moving, and it was just a straw body. And I looked at that and I went, there's something fucking wrong here. If you want to talk about it in sort of energy reading, esoteric terms, it's like there was something fundamentally fucking wrong with the inside of that one. I've looked at other people and I'm going, oh, they're nice. When I find someone that pairs up with me, I get excited. I do. I like anomalies. So if you've got like a bouncy inner child, a really feminine, cliche looking mum, fluffy. I mean, think of the best mum you've ever thought of. Is like, what is it, like Brady Bunch shit, right? She's kind of like that, but also kind of like an earth mother. My inner masculine is definitely a soldier, without a doubt. He is, and he's vicious. He's sadistic when he wants to be, but he's everything I wanted my parents to be. So I guess that maybe we create these people inside ourselves because of the parts that are lacking when we're growing up, I guess. I could do a whole podcast on this, honestly, and I think I will. I'm writing that down again. Yes, I wrote down manifesting, which I still haven't touched. I'm writing that down. Inner people. But I will write that down, because if I don't, I will forget. But the codependency, by that stage, had gone. I didn't really have any kind of developed, codependency on this ex-boyfriend figure. I'd lost it when I left my ex-husband. I stood on my own 2 feet for about 2 years and developed myself. I looked at myself and what I wanted to be and what felt natural to me. And in that, I developed a sense of, self and value, where you could stand up for yourself and say, I don't agree with this. I don't want to belong to this. I'm not doing this. And a lot of people just don't do that because they're afraid of being alone. If you look at the podcast I did on the value of silence, or was it the value of being alone? I think I did one after the other. But people are afraid to just be alone and to look at themselves and say, okay, what is working, what isn't working? Just clear the clutter. What do I want to be? Where do I want to go to? Or they get busy with work or other people, or trying to fit in, or all these extra little busy work that comes with, the reality of being a human. And I don't actually stop and think, where am I actually going? They just sort of float in and out of social groups. What do I actually need to do? Where do I want to be? Where is this going? And what effect does this have on me? Psychologically, mentally, emotionally, holistically. They just sort of float. And that's how you get dropped into scenarios and situations where you don't want to be in. So maybe you develop into a drug addict, or you're sleeping around or stuff like that. You just get into it because your friends were into it, or you segued into it because of bad situations in your life or your relationships. Really need to stop and develop a sense of self, or be strong in what you actually want to be. As soon as you start weakening yourself for others to fit in with social groups and things like that, ones that go against your morals, or your goals in life, you're going to find yourself dropping significantly over time. It might start small. You might pick up drinking as a social thing, but then your friends want to go out binge drinking every weekend, and then it becomes day drinking, and then it becomes alcoholism. But you're an alcoholic because you're in denial, but your friends are doing it and they're saying it's okay, so they've got your support network. But realistically, they're just agreeing with you because you're enabling their habit. There's a whole bunch of, it's just snowballs. And in the end, you find yourself with a liver condition, hepatitis, and all kinds of fucked up things. And you're questioning how it started at all. When your friends were so supportive and they said, this is okay because we're doing it too. It's like after school specials, isn't it? It's like, don't do this because your friends say, peer pressure and all that shit. But we do, we just float and we don't think about what we're doing consciously until it's too late and you start feeling remorse and regret. And all for the sake of sitting down in hermit mode for a couple of weeks and saying, what the fuck am I doing and what do I actually want to do, you know? People are afraid of being alone because you might get lonely. Oh no. You can break through that barrier easily. As soon as you start developing self-love, and I'm not talking about narcissistic self-love, I'm talking about self-appreciation of what you've accomplished, caring for yourself physically, and that's not just facials. That's, you know, putting up boundaries and saying, okay, this person's not good for me. I'm not associating with that. This group is not doing what I need to do in life. I don't feel this is constructive. I'm not doing that. You can start saying no, and it can be good for you. That's self-love as well. That's not just a case of I need a facial and a pedicure. Or I'm just going to fake feeling nice about myself because I think I'm the best in the world. And everyone will believe me because I believe my own hype. That's, I think, what's going on with my ex-boyfriend at the moment. He thinks he's top shit. It's insane. Overcompensating for severe insecurities. It's like, because he knows he's not achieved anything in life. I know this. You're not achieved anything in life. If you have, it's bare minimum. And he's at ground one as he was in his 20s. But he wants to live as he is in his 20s. So it doesn't make sense. You know? It's just absurd. Oh, librarians. You ever seen, like, hang on a sec. This librarian who works in the school I'm currently working at, she looks like the slug off of Monsters, Inc. I swear to God. She is sharp and hard like the slug as well. And every time she sees me, she glares at me. I'm going, what the fuck, dude? I see you, Wazowski. What did I do? It's absurd. Don't be mean. All right, I won't. I love that slug, though. I do. I like most things. Anyway, where am I going with this? Codependency. Okay, so what can I leave you with? Right. If you're facing codependency, and the majority of us are because we're conditioned to in our westernized society to participate in particular social groups and things like that, and to perform in certain ways as a social norm, blah, 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 sociologically, this is a long essay like answer. But you do need to develop a sense of self, and that does not mean a sense of arrogance or entitlement or self-appreciation to the extent where other people are forfeiting their rights or value just to, you know, serve you and your needs, which is what my parents did. You need to feel safe in that you know yourself. And that's part of the authenticity podcast I did as well. I don't want you to have to depend on people for validation. My friend Chris at the moment broke up with his Twinkie. He was a Twinkie, he was in his 20s. My friend Chrissy's like my age, 38. So it's like, I'm just looking at Chrissy going, dude, why have you got a twink? It's like, and he is gay. He's lovely. But I think honestly it picked him up because it was a sense of validation. He came into his sexuality late because he just didn't come out of the closet till he was late. Later than all of us, we hit puberty, went, ooh, people. He was subduing it. He didn't want to tell his parents, he didn't want to have a boyfriend. He had a few girlfriends before the twinks started. But he's just broken up with him. He's sitting in Thailand at the moment, I think, right now. And he's, I hope, in hermit mode. I really do, because he really needs to start evaluating. But he messaged me saying, I miss you and I miss hanging out with you and stuff like that. So I'm thinking he is in his dark night of his soul at the moment. He's broken up with his twink. He's lost his access to God knows what he was doing for him. But what he needs to do is just stop, because he was codependent on him. He was emotionally codependent on him. He had this young boy who was chasing him around. The young boy was clearly chasing him around for money. Clearly. I'm sitting there going, because he was like, what was he? He was a gymnast or something like that. He was a very fit guy, and I could see the appeal. But he was chasing my friend Chrissy for money, clearly. And then Chrissy was getting upset. Actually, they were both getting upset. Chrissy was getting upset because the twink kept wanting to go out clubbing and stuff like that. And Chrissy's nearly 40. She doesn't want to go clubbing. And the twink was getting upset because Chris wouldn't go out clubbing and stuff like that. And, you know, it was this big kerfuffle. big draw on it, but the codependency didn't last because, you know, I think both parties came to realize that they wanted different things. The 20-year-old wanted to be 20 and young and dumb and fuck around. And Chris is coming up to 40. He just wants to settle down. He just wants that chill life. And I'm sitting there and I'm trying to explain to him, it's like, dude, you're in different areas of your life now. You're both on different levels of maturity. You can't expect this twink to give you validation because, you know, he's cute and pretty and he does nice things. You know, I don't know what you guys get up to in the bedroom, but I've definitely seen like the accoutrement of what, you know. Anyway, Chris is quite open with showing me things like that. I don't know why, but he's gorgeous that way because it's funny. I suppose he just needs someone to express it to. But anyway, but you're on different wavelengths. If you don't meet the same wavelengths, clearly you're going to have more arguments. You're not on the same page. It's like a lot of guys, I think guys mature by about 30, 33, 34, 35. They start questioning. Girls mature sooner because we've got to, because of the baby thing. We got to be able to be mature to look after the baby thing. So if you've got a girl who's 25 to 30 and they're still acting like a mature fucking princess wannabe, fucking avoid them like the plague, because they're not, I doubt they're the kind that are going to change. You know, my ex-boyfriend was 40 and he was still trying to do that. I was like, he's not going to change. Guys by about 30, 35 start questioning what the fuck they're doing, which I encourage. At that point, you'd start questioning whether you're in a codependent relationship or why you're with this person. And you need to start looking at, you know, do I want this? Is this good for me? Is this person helping the situation in any way, or is it just a hindrance? Are they hurting me? Are they encouraging me to do destructive things? And you're going to start evaluating whether you should participate further or just, you know, cut your losses and go. I mean, the tragic thing is by also, you know, mid-30s, you're also invested in property with these people sometimes, or you've got a kid with them or something. And that's the tragedy, because then you've got to negotiate, well, what do we do with the kid, or what do we do with the house? I was lucky in that I only had a house with my ex-husband. I could just, you know, it took a while to sell off, but once it was gone, and he was gone. So it's like, fuck this. But the parenting thing as well could be difficult. I mean, I'm 38. I know most guys I date, if I date my age, are going to have kids of some sort, or, you know, some ex-wife hanging around with, you know, some grudge they got against them, so they'll try and ruin their life. But and that includes the new girlfriend. It's very bitter looking at that, isn't it? But it's true, it could happen. Some women just cut guys off and go, no, I don't want anything to do with you. But, you know, it's that codependency, you've got to break it. It's a hard nut to crack because we're conditioned to want to participate in codependent relationships because it's, you know, it's looking after each other, deemed looking after each other. But realistically, you're looking for that transactional relationship where you have to do something for someone to get something back. It needs to be broken. You should be doing stuff for people because you love them, not because you get something out of it. And there are relationships as well where it's just like a split relationship where one person is unconditionally loving someone, but the other person expects it as a transactional thing. They're expecting, and they've got the sense of entitlement where they fucking think they deserve it because they are who they are and who they're with. A lot of people enter financial arrangements, situationships, where one of them doesn't want to work. They think if they give them a baby, for example, that they shouldn't have to work. And the traditional housewife thing, I think. But then again, the traditional housewife was also like beating rugs and doing washing by hand and shit like that. So we're a bit past that stage. That doesn't exist anymore unless you live in a third world country. But, you know, the traditional housewife currently, right now, does all the housework in about an hour, and then the kids are at school, and then so what else is there to do in a day? You know, I don't know what they do. But you're always going to find there are people who feel entitled because, oh, I had a baby, that it's my job to stay at home and I don't have to work. And so the guy goes out, gets a job, earns the money, brings it back. That's a transactional relationship because he's not doing it because he feels compelled to, that he loves this person. Often they don't love each other. It's really weird. It's like, why would you stay with someone you don't love? But because the baby, I mean, they often stay for the kid and the baby. And she'll stay because she's getting paid to, essentially, because they have this one kid, and this one kid is the draw card. It's like they don't love each other, but they're staying together for their kid. Or you know, they're staying together because their living arrangements or the house, or there's always some kind of extra strand anchor that holds these people together. It's not that they want to be together, it's because they have to be together. And that's always negotiable as well. You can always do co-parenting and not have to live together, not have to be in a relationship together. But there's that sort of, you know, honor thing going on as well. For the guys, I find a lot of my friends who are male have got kids with people that they just can't stand. But they still have to stay attached to them because they got kids together. They want to do the honorable thing and keep looking after this kid. And I've had a few people where the kid isn't theirs, but they don't know until it's too late, and they've already paid for this kid for God knows how many years, 5 or 6 years. And you sit there and think, oh, you feel like a mug now. I wonder if you can sue for compensation. But this girl knew, and she kept it mum because it meant that she got a paycheck. It was insane. That was one of my friends. Anyway, no, I'm not going into that today. That's hot gossip. I'll spill that tea later. I'm still waiting on the outcome of that because, you know, paternity tests and shit. But I will say this now. Paternity tests are your insurance policy. You should always fucking do one of those. You don't need consent from the other parent to do it. You can do it because you are a parent of the child. It is your insurance policy. If you're paying out for anything, get documentation. Get in written form, and, you know, don't just go on, you know, word of mouth. I came from an area, low SES area, where women enjoy tricking guys into doing that shit. Or, you know, like they wanted a relationship with this guy and he shagged them and she got pregnant and then he bolted, and then she's like vindictively coming after him with child support because, you know, this is the only way I can get at him for doing what he did to me. It's a constant revenge thing. It's pettiness, eye for eye bullshit. If they were mature enough to co-parent and just handle the job, they should both be working. And the kid doesn't become a pawn in their stupid game of immaturity. That bugs the fuck out of me when they do that as well. But it is very commonplace where I was raised. I didn't participate myself because I think it's fuckery. But, you know, some girls got into it. Some guys got into it. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, really. Because it's a lot of clusterfuck of horribleness. And the people become people they don't want to be. And, you know, all for the sake of financial codependence or emotional codependence or, you know, codependency through children. Or, you know, it's constant. It's bullshit. Your life becomes miserable. You can't stand the person you're attaching yourself to, but you still stay with them. It's weird. Anyway, this was a long rant. I'm sorry. I know I should be doing that on a different podcast. It is currently, 47 minutes long. All right, I'm going to have to go because now the other teachers are turning up. I hope you have a fantastic day. It's Monday. Yes, I know. I don't want you to be stressed. I do want you to have a good time. And we're going to work through the week. Have a good one, guys. And then we'll chat later, hopefully on the way back.